It's time for the BSing with the Guys live podcast.
It is time for the BSing with the Guys live podcast. Welcome to the show. Stay with us as we get into the real possibility that we may have Iranian sleeper cells ready to attack here in the U.S. We're also going to talk to our guest tonight, Texas attorney and bondsman Ken Good, about the ramifications of this Democrat-pushed bail reform. And if we get a little time, we're going to dive into the political divide when it comes to passing Trump's Save America Act, because it seems like the last thing the Democrats want is proof of citizenship before voting. And of course, like always, wherever else the chats and our brains take us, let's get into it. Now, first, I want to welcome our guest to the show, Ken Good. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, first, let me formally introduce you to the crew. I'm Shane. The young one under me or next to me, depending on the screen you're looking at, is Justin. And that beautiful young man with the blue shirt on is Brad. Now, let's introduce the audience to Ken. He is a Texas-based attorney with over 35 years of legal experience. He has argued cases before high-level courts such as the Supreme Court of Texas, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, just to name a few. In addition to general litigation, Ken is prominently involved in the bail bonds industry. He serves as a board member of the Professional Bondsmen of Texas and is recognized as a specialist in bail law. He's also a critic of the cashless bail system that seems to be getting pushed by these Democratic-run areas. Now, Ken, did I do any justice with that intro for you?
Oh, yes, very well. The only
right.
thing I would add is I'm married and my wife is also an attorney and we have two daughters that are grown.
Okay, beautiful. Well, there you go. That's beautiful. Now, myself, I want to dive right into it with you. I want to talk about the bail reform, mainly this push for cashless bail. So if you don't mind, we're going to get right into it.
Sure.
Now, in places like New York, even with the amendments to the bail law, we've seen these high-profile cases where individuals released without meaningful conditions reoffend violently. Now, some would argue that's what put Daniel Penny in the position he found himself in on that subway that day. Now, I know Jordan Neely wasn't on bail specifically at the time, but he had over 40 prior arrests and was still roaming around free. So my question to you is, just to pick your brain, is it seems crazy how supporters of these cashless policies claim it doesn't contribute to repeat offending when police and victims' families keep pointing to the same pattern of catch and release. So what do you think is behind both sides of this political spectrum looking at the same situation but coming up with two different conclusions? I mean, one side says, oh, it's not a problem to cashless bail. The other side, no, it's causing great harm. So, I mean, why the divide there?
Well, I think we've gone through a period of a social experiment, because that's really all this is. We've got activists that are pushing programs that they want to try out. There's no history. There's no proof that they work. And so we've been going through this period where we're just going to try them out. And because the activists are so invested in doing that, they can't admit they're wrong. And so when they don't work, then they call you a liar. Or, look at, you've mentioned New York. I mean, they did this experiment in 2021 and they've rolled it back 3 times now. And it's still one of the major debates in the ongoing governor's race. So, and the governor last election said that was it. They weren't going to roll it back anymore. Now, next election, she says she's open to rolling it back some more. The problem with what they're doing is they're getting rid of accountability. Because when you get arrested 40 times and there's no just keep releasing them, you're not holding anybody accountable. And when you get rid of accountability, criminals see that as a green light to commit more crime. And, 50-60% of all crime is being done by a small group of people. And when that small group learns that we're not going to do anything to them, then they just commit more and more crime.
Yeah, and I was going to, argue that point, which I guess I don't need to argue with anybody, on the panel right now. But just eliminating cash bail, it seems to just, remove a key incentive for defendants to show up in court for one and stay out of trouble without, financial skin in the game. So why
Exactly.
wouldn't people expect more failures to appear and new crimes, especially for those with violent histories? It just makes sense,
Well, I think the failures to appear is the big key, and that's what nobody really sees, and the activists will just deny. But the private industry bail system has the smallest, or the smallest failure to appear rate. So they get people to go to court the most,
Right.
and everything else has a much worse failure to appear rate. So private industry, less than 10% failure to appear rate. Cash bonds, twice that or more. Simple release, whether it's in New York released on no bail, and California released on zero bail, or Texas release on personal bonds, those have like a 50, 60, and there's some things saying 75, 80% failure to appear rates. And so when you have an 80% failure to appear rate for 1,000 people, that's 800 people not showing up for court. And if you're doing that every week, well, you can see very quickly the backlogs are just tremendous on the courts. And the only way you get over backlogs is dismissing cases. And when you start dismissing cases, the criminals see that as, hey, they dismissed my case. That means I can do this again, and they won't do anything to me.
Well, so, I mean, are you under the assumption that it's incompetence that leads to this, or do you think there's some malice intent behind this push to just allow criminals to, this revolving door, so to say, of just in and out, in and out?
Probably one of the best pieces of political advice I was given one time is don't ever give somebody an evil intent when just incompetence will explain it. I think you could argue that the activists had put one of our national parties in a box because they push these reforms and they won't admit they're not working. They'll argue we just need more time, or they'll say, well, this is exactly what we planned. It was more fairness, and you just got to put up with more crime. And so if you were on the other side and you start admitting that this is not working, well, then you'll be targeted. You'll get an opponent in your next election, right, and you'll be done. And these are career politicians who don't have anything else they can do. So I think in a lot of our urban areas, they're in a box, right, being held hostage by the activists in their party, because if they don't go along with them, then they'll be done in politics.
Yeah, and it seems, I mean, you can see the comment I popped up on the screen there. I mean, a lot of people believe that this is purposely done by a certain side. It's crazy to watch it happen around the country, and it seems to only be in Democrat-run cities. And
well, and I think you could go back in our history and trace it. Before every national election, about 6 months before, we would have some kind of scandal. We would start having protests. We would have the activists tell certain racial groups in our country, you're not being treated fairly. They're picking on you. You need to get mad, and you need to come out and vote in larger numbers, and you need to vote for us. And then as soon as the election was over, it would go back to status quo. Well, then, right, when you create a mob, you lose control of the mob. And so the mob started noticing that they were just being used. And so they started electing what I would call the true believers. Some people would call them the whack jobs. And so we've gotten these soft on crime DAs, and they're being told what to do. It's a very organized, complex and series of groups that they have to listen to. And we had a soft on crime DA who decided, no, this isn't working in Harris County in Houston, Texas. And so she quit doing it. And what do? They targeted her at the next election, and she lost in the Democrat primary. So I think it's very organized, and it's political now. We've always had politics in our criminal justice system, but not to the level or extreme that we have it right now, because one party in the negotiations or in the debate won't even admit there's a problem, won't admit that their policies are not working, and we can't have a compromise when the activists refuse to acknowledge that what they're doing is harming the country instead of helping.
That's what I was going to say. Until you admit there's a problem, it's like anything that's negatively affecting your life or someone else's life. Until you admit there's a problem, it's never going to be fixed. And it's a shame that it comes down to politics, as you say. And it's not really what's best for the people. If I'm running this area, this city, this county, whatever, it's not about the people. It's about pleasing a political side and not wanting to say the quote unquote wrong thing or run on the wrong, ideas. It's just nuts that having the type of crime that you see in some of these cities, it would benefit anybody. It's just nuts to believe that. And I don't just mean the citizens, the politicians themselves. Like, how does it benefit them? It's crazy that these people still keep getting voted in these cities that are just overrun with crime. It blows my mind, man. I live 20 minutes away from one, which is New Orleans. And I've watched it over the decades just get worse and worse and worse, and they keep voting the same way. It's ridiculous.
Well, we've got this great comparison that we have right now. You've got Houston, Texas, Harris County, where the misdemeanor courts are using simple release, personal bonds for most misdemeanors, and it was imposed by a federal court, and it was done as a consent decree. But it was just a settlement between two like-minded groups. The Harris County Commissioner's Court hired attorneys and told them to agree with the plaintiffs. I mean, the case kept getting reversed, and the Fifth Circuit ultimately ruled it should have never been filed in federal court. And yet they still follow the settlement agreement. The Attorney General recently intervened, and he's filed a motion to dismiss the consent decree now. But we've got the activist groups taking what they're doing in Harris County on misdemeanors. They're taking it to other states. They took it to Ohio, and they're saying, oh, this is the gold standard. This is what you should be doing statewide. The Texas legislature thinks that what they're doing in Harris County is a complete failure. And there's statistics out. There's data from Yolo County about simple release on misdemeanors, on nonviolent offenses from COVID. And that study compared someone released on simple release versus somebody released on the private surety bond, and found that even though they're both nonviolent offenses, the one that was just simply released had a 200% greater chance of a new violent offense in the next 18 months. And the activist groups don't admit, don't acknowledge, don't even address the science. They just continue to argue that what they're doing in Houston, Texas is the gold standard. Everybody else should adopt it, when the legislature has passed numerous bills rejecting it. And there's a fight between Harris County Commissioner's Court and the legislature over who's setting bail policy in the state of Texas. And I think that the legislature is winning that battle.
God, it's so nuts, man. It's just
it is crazy.
I just can't wrap my head around the thought process behind people that
it's devoid of all basic decency. I mean, there was an article in the Dallas Morning News where these activist groups were quoted by a reporter saying, every trial court that has addressed our arguments across the country has found the private surety bail system unconstitutional. The problem is every court of appeals across the country that has addressed the appeal has reversed. And they just kind of forget to mention that. I had to send a letter to the editor, and it actually got published, citing all of the cases where they keep getting reversed. And they're like, oh, but we always win until it gets to the Court of Appeals. And, usually attorneys get sanctioned when they kind of ignore the law, but not them. They just keep going forward with the same argument. We always win until you get to the Court of Appeals, and you always lose.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, guys, Justin, Brad, y'all got anything before I move on with them? I don't want to take all the time with Ken, but I'll do it.
No. Go ahead. And look, I agree with you with no cash bails. And it's just because of, like you said, the percentage. I mean, I didn't even realize it was that high a percentage of no shows. But here we are releasing these criminals with no cash bail. And I mean, the mental competency of most of these people, and just the ability to say, well, dude, I just did what I did. If it was armed robbery or whatever it was, I'm out with a slap on the wrist. They're not going to do anything to me. So they're going to come right back back, and like you said, 18 months later, most likely going to offend again. And I think it hurts the local bails bondsmen too. I mean, the businesses for sure. If this is the practice,
Let's look at the failure to appear rate. If you just have a 50% failure to appear rate on these simple releases and a less than 10% by the private industry, you've got to have twice the number of courts to be able to resolve the same number of cases if you just use the private surety bail system. So when these activists are pushing these policies that are just social experiments that have no data that says they work other than their cooking the books data, I mean, they're doing real damage to the criminal justice system because cases can't get resolved. And I would argue they know what they're doing. Because and some of them, they argue honestly, look, we want to have a more fair treatment of people in the county jails. Well, we need to be focusing on public safety, not fairness.
And I guess, do you think that these politicians are running on this platform with we're going to do away with the bail system and this and that? I mean, I guess it's something that they just figure we can get votes off of. I mean, these people vote
I
for
think
us.
that's the way it started. I think it is the way it started. And I think also the activists thought they were going to implement these policies in the urban areas where the Democrats, all they had to do was elect a Democrat and they didn't have any opposition. And then they would be so successful, they could take it across the country. It would be so successful. The problem is it's been nothing but a failure.
It's a disaster.
But they can't admit it. And so
and
now they are. I mean, I think I've already said they're in a box, because can you imagine what would happen if they said, okay, what we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 to 10 years has really done damage to our urban areas, and these policies that we've advocated don't work. Well, they would lose. They would, and they can't.
Yes, absolutely.
It's now
they'll never admit fault, right? Exactly.
Yeah, because they want to hang on to power.
Now, let me say, with law enforcement in states with bail reform, often reporting arresting the same people repeatedly. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, these no cash bail, the system that's being pushed, it has to be demoralizing to law enforcement in those areas. I mean, it's a danger to the public for sure, but I mean, the local politicians prioritizing, equity over accountability for these repeat predators, it's got to make law enforcement just want to throw up their hands and say, I'm done. I mean,
look what happened in California. They enacted Prop 47 where they changed certain felonies to misdemeanors. But then, that one of them was theft under $950. So then the DAs in our urban areas came up with this brilliant idea. We will no longer prosecute theft under $950.
Wow.
And suddenly, within a very short period of time, stores start closing because they can't withstand $25,000 a day in shoplifting.
Exactly.
And then the areas around the stores become crime areas. And then, the commercial property values just nosedive. I mean, they started selling for a third to 50% of the value they had just 3 to 5 years earlier. And suddenly the mayors are going, hey, why are our tax receipts falling? It's because of these policies. And so in California, they had Prop 34 to roll back Prop 47, but the legislatures went behind that and they won't fund it. So they've rolled it back, but the legislature won't agree to fund the change. So that's, again, a backdoor mandate of bail reform, contrary to what the voters are voting for. It's again because these politicians are being held hostage by the activists. You will do what we want, or you will not get elected in the next cycle.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like Virginia is going the same way as far as the lowering the bails on certain crimes and I think lowering felonies to misdemeanors.
The governor there is a good example. She ran as a moderate, but as soon as she got elected, she just showed her true colors, and she's just been a flaming far left activist. But the good news is these people, when they show their true colors, they have a 1 to 2 term shelf life. I mean, they just aren't going to last too long because these soft on crime policies just are not sustainable. And usually they're replaced with law and order candidates. So like Gascon, when he was defeated by over 20 points in LA, he was replaced by a law and order DA. So I'm very hopeful for the future. And I think we're the tide is turning. The pendulum swung.
It's swinging, yes.
It swung very far to the left, and it has now started swinging back. And I think Trump's election is probably when his election to term number 2 is when it started.
It's just you see a lot of money being thrown at these liberal candidates, these Democratic candidates that are soft on crime. I mean, the type of money in certain areas is just astonishing. And it's like, who is behind that and why?
Well, it is so organized. I mean, it's however you think of it, it's 10 times more organized than you think, because they spend money to find a soft on crime DA. They give them the money. They get a candidate. They give them the money. They get elected. They go to seminars. They're told at the seminars, here's the policies that you're going to enact, like a quid pro quo. And then here's your press releases, or here's your studies, your pseudo studies that are going to show that these policies will make your voters safer. And then here's your PR campaign to get to support it once you start doing it. And it is very well organized, very well funded, and it's been devastating. So I think people have realized it. They're starting to respond, and I think we're muting it now.
Yeah. Now I've saw I don't know how true it is, but I've seen some long-term studies. Now never know who's doing these studies, but they claim to show no overall recidivism spike. Now, isolated but tragic cases of released offenders committing murders or assaults, of course, fuel public outrage when you do hear about them. Now, I personally believe these policymakers should, err on the side of caution and require cash bail or detention for high-risk cases rather than risking innocent lives on experimental reforms. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Or is it just me?
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I agree. The one argument I would make is, when the pendulum swings too far the other way, we get policies to hold people in jail in case goes to trial. And when it swings too far to the left, it's not sustainable. The public's not going to put up with more crime. But when it swings too far to the right, the public's not going to pay to hold everybody in jail until their cases are resolved. And so I think, what our friends on the left are missing is if they would have just put a strong accountability element to their to their experiment, it would have worked a lot better. But when you do accountability and you have the same group of people committing a large number of crimes, well, then they're going to end up in jail, and that's contrary to what they want, because they don't want that. They pass these policies by arguing that first-time offenders were getting stuck in jail. Well, that was never true to begin with.
I got you. Well, I was actually going to ask you about, you had mentioned just the pendulum swinging too far to one side is not good. Now, so political narratives aside, I mean, when judges lose discretion to set meaningful bail for violent or repeat felons, it kind of undermines the presumption that serious crimes deserve serious consequences, even pretrial. So how can we balance this fairness without letting dangerous individuals walk free before trial?
I think one of the things that Texas did that I think is probably the number one thing they did positively for bail reform is require judges to look at criminal histories before setting bail. Because I think the number one indicator of what you're going to do in the future is what you've done in the past. And, the whole basis of our criminal justice system is, we don't want everybody treated the same. We want to treat everybody differently. We only want whatever amount of pressure needs to be put on you to get you to change and become productive. And I mean, Justin, he looks really rough and tough. He probably would need a lot more pressure. Me, I am a wimp. You would have to just put a finger on me and I will change. I promise you, because, but that's part of these reforms. We want everybody treated the same. And so, and especially on these misdemeanors, it's a charge-based release system. So if you're charged with this list, the judge no longer has any discretion. He has to release you simply without private surety bond. And in our organized crime, our gangs, our career criminals have realized that. Well, shoot, if I just stay within these crimes and I commit them 10, 15, 20 times, I'm going to get the same thing every time. No, Texas is no. I mean, when you get arrested, we have to look at your criminal history, and bail gets set based on your criminal history. And me as a first-time offender should have one set of bail, and Justin, as with a 10-page criminal history, should be treated differently.
Well, was that change part of SB 9, or was it already in effect?
It was part of SB 6, which was done 4 years ago.
Okay, well,
SB 9 was the bill that tweaked SB 6.
I was going to have you tell me a little bit about this SB 9 that passed in 2025.
SB 9 is a huge bill that just passed the legislature, but it was, at its basis is a tweak of SB 6, which was the major reform 4 years ago. But, I mean, it's gone far. I mean, when I tell you the fight between the legislature and Harris County is going strong, the legislature is looking at the magistrate judges in Harris County as the problem. So they took away their right to set bail on a list of charges because they want the elected official to set bail. So if something goes wrong, they know who to blame and who to point to for the voters. And so, but the problem with that is we have a lot of counties in Texas that have Chapter 54 magistrates. And so we didn't limit them to Harris County. We applied them across the state. And I think it has a lot of unintended consequences because, it's our urban areas that this is a problem. But JPs, they're not even attorneys. They can still magistrate. And so it's kind of, so I think that fight is kind of where it's going, or what is part of SB 9. We've now enacted the ability for district attorneys to appeal bail. So if they think the magistrate set bail too low, they can appeal it to the Court of Appeals in the middle of the criminal case. And if there is a complaint filed that a judge is not following 1715, which is the factors for setting bail, they can be removed for office now. And in fact, the amendment as a part of this last legislative session, the bills that passed, even if the allegation is made, they have to be removed from office or suspended from office until the investigation is complete.
Wow.
Man, I love Texas. The whole country needs to just start modeling their criminal justice system after Texas, man. Y'all are tough on crime over there. And it shows. Now I know it looks like it can get a little bit rough in Austin, but Austin is a liberal run city. So
it's a liberal run city, but the legislature is pretty conservative, and we've got an element in our House that I would say is influenced strongly by the activists, but they can't get a bill, or they couldn't get a bill voted out of committee the last two sessions, probably last three.
I got you. Let me ask you something. I've been wondering this for the longest time. Now, of course, we went through Hurricane Katrina over here, and when that happened, it sent a lot of refugees over there, especially to the Houston areas where they shipped a lot of people out of New Orleans. Is there any truth to your knowledge that the crime rate spiked when these people from New Orleans came and stayed in Houston for a while? I've always heard that, and I didn't know if that was a rumor.
You know what? I don't have any data, and I don't have any knowledge of that. But no, I don't. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say it did because it's a high criminal element in New Orleans.
But during when they enacted this consent decree and for misdemeanors, the local police officers union looked at 1 week's dockets of misdemeanor courts where they were requiring everybody just to have a simple release. And I mean, 10,000 people showing up for court or set for court, and they found over a 75% failure to appear rate.
Yeah,
so 1,750 or more failed to show up for court, and the system, we use the county system or they use the county system for doing the analysis. And part of the consent decree required them to set up that system for tracking failures to appear. And once the police officers union pointed that out, the county's response was, "Oh, well, that's not accurate. Well, it's your system that you set up according to the consent decree. Oh, well, we're not going to use that anymore."
Dang! Wow!
I mean, it's like the county in Illinois. They've gotten rid of cash bonds, and so the clerk issued a report in the last 6 months saying they've got a 75% failure to appear rate. What do the activists say?
I bet.
That's just wrong. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So,
but I bet.
I speaking on that, looking at the successes in stricter states like yours versus this ongoing backlash in reform states, in your mind, what would it take for these no cash bail supporters to acknowledge that lenient bail terms have contributed to public safety concerns? Do you think there's anything that could wake these people up who believe otherwise?
Yeah, yes, I think we're committing the same cycle that we did in the 60s. In the 60s, we felt safe, so we started being more forgiving on our criminal laws. So more people got released, crime started going up. But then we had a debate over how to address it, and we had one side of the political spectrum refuse to do anything. And so that ended up with a backlash, and that's what got us the war on drugs and Ronald Reagan being president. So I think we're in the middle of doing that again. I think we need one more national election that's on law and order so that the activists lose, and then there will be a reset and both parties will become law and order again. We need one more national election.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
And you really think both parties, you really think both parties will come together and be
historically,
tough on
both
crime?
Have been law and order. Both historically, we go through periods where the activists get involved in. There's so much money involved right now, and with the Soros groups, I think that's going to influence. I think, I think Biden outsourced his crime policy to the Soros groups, and so
I bet. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and that's the name you hear behind a lot of these campaigns that go on in these soft on crime areas, and then it always brings me to start wondering, what benefit is behind these Soros groups and dumping the kind of money it takes to get these people elected and then just letting criminals go crazy. How does that benefit them? None of it makes any sense to me. It really don't, unless it's, like I said, unless there's some malice intent behind it. I know you said it's not good to jump to that, but my God, man, it's just hard to believe there's anything else going on besides purposely trying to ruin places in this country, if not the entire thing.
I think that these policies are being passed by a coalition, and I think part of the coalition are true believers, that they're just do-gooders, and but part of the coalition is probably looking to do damage. We shouldn't have jails, and those people would argue that jails are cages, and that we don't have a right to public safety because we can't hold anybody in jail, which I reject every bit of that. Our society, the reason why we come together as a society is for public safety. That's the compromise we make. And so if you're not going to provide that, then we're going to go back to have vigilante justice. Then the example you gave about the guy in New York, where he was just trying to help and he ends up getting prosecuted, that's an example of vigilante justice. The public demands public safety, and if the government will not provide it, the citizens will provide it itself.
Somebody will.
And you think about it, in our history, the criminal laws were to stop the vigilantes and to protect the criminals until we could get them through the criminal justice system. That's what these groups don't really understand. And maybe they don't care. There's a lot of crazy theories out there that the Soros groups makes money out of chaos because but I don't know. I think they right now, the Democrats are hanging on to power by bringing in large numbers of illegal aliens into the blue states, and then they get more representation of the House of Representatives than they would without those illegal aliens. So I think they're clinging onto power through the injustices they're doing by bringing in large numbers of illegal aliens and the damage that that's doing to their communities. And I think that's really where we are. And that's coming to an end, I think. You see people leaving those states right and left. As they need more money so that they can pay for bringing even more illegal aliens in so they can cling further onto power. That's also not sustainable, but it's just going to end very badly for them.
Yeah, what makes it?
And you make that point, real quick with people coming from other states, and I think we've talked about it on this podcast, and it's a political question here I'm asking. It's like you have these people that are moving from, if it's New York or California, and they're moving to, Texas, and they're moving to Florida, and it's like, these people, you move here, but are you leaving your voting habits behind? If
so
that
far,
makes sense.
They have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you hope. Yes, exactly.
Texas has always been a conservative state. Even when it was a Democrat state, it was a conservative Democrat state. And the reason why Texas is Republican is because the Democrats don't have room for conservatives in their party anymore. To run a statewide race in Texas, you've got to go raise the money. And to be able to raise the money, you've got to state positions that will then disqualify you from being able to run a statewide race in Texas. There's a really good example right now. The Democrats had a very competitive race for U.S. Senate, and between Tallarico and Crockett. Oh, Crockett was the firebrand. Tallarico was the guy that has the elite's endorsement, and he won. He won by 8 points. But the very next day after the election, they're showing all over the news him standing at the mic at the Texas legislature talking about there's 6 genders. And that God is non-binary. And I'm like, those things alone will disqualify him from a statewide race in the state of Texas.
Right. He reminds me of Beto, man. Beto O'Rourke, he so reminds me of that guy.
Yeah, he's probably not as polished as Beto. But I swear they were listening, because I've always said that a moderate right-of-center Democrat can win in Texas. But the problem is they can't bring themselves to run a right-of-center Democrat in the state of Texas. And I can't vote for a right-of-center Democrat, because once they're elected, they're going to do whatever the national party tells them to do.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. And dealing with the state of Texas on a political view, I hear some of these pundits out here, and I hear some of these political views out here saying that Texas is not truly a red state, man. It's more of a purple state. We're on the cusp in Texas of, going more to the left than we are right now. But you're from Texas. I want you to give me your opinion on that.
Okay, you go outside of Houston, go outside of urban Dallas.
Yeah. Austin, Dallas, right.
Maybe Bexar County, but Texas. Statewide races, the governor usually wins by 13 points. So the Republican candidate wins by 13 points. What the Democrats are counting on for the Senate race is that Paxton wins, because Paxton has a lot of baggage. He's in a runoff with Cornyn. Cornyn's the moderate, Paxton's the conservative. So the bet is that Tallarico, a moderate, can beat the conservative Paxton with all his baggage. I don't think that's true. If you start telling the citizens of the state of Texas that there's 6 genders and that God is non-binary, I think that's enough. You can't win a statewide race. I really don't.
You would think. You would hope. Let's hope.
I don't even think you can in San Antonio, because I don't think a religious, the Hispanic community, which is very religious, and they're usually conservative in their views on religion. I don't think they'll support that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I hope. God, we don't want to lose the state of Texas for sure,
Well, if you lose the state of Texas, then, then you're not going to win an actual election.
We have problems. Yeah, it's done. We have problems.
But it's the same thing true with California, and the same thing's true with New York. If they lose either one of those, then they can't win. There's some data that said Reagan did a compromise on illegal immigration back when he was president, and if he hadn't done that, California wouldn't be the Democrat state it is today, and the Democrats wouldn't have won the last 3 national elections that they won.
Yeah. I can almost agree with that. Yeah, I can almost agree with that when he did that amnesty policy. What was it, 11 million or maybe more? But I agree with you. Yeah, it is amazing.
Well, it just seems every election cycle they claim they're getting closer and closer to getting Texas. They want it so bad. They can taste it, but I don't believe in any time in the near future that Texas is going to flip. I just can't see it, man.
These national elections, whether you realize it or not, are still being won and lost on personality. Look at this last election. You've got Trump, who's working as a fry cook at McDonald's, and then then you've got Harris, who has a shrill laugh and can't. I mean, she sounds like she's been drinking when she does
all day long.
When she does an interview, and you just can't resolve those two. And you can't. He loved to talk policy all day long. She was too scared to even get on. The podcast that Trump did for 3 hours. She was too
Rogan.
Scared. Rogan, because she couldn't.
She couldn't handle it. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, she couldn't do it. Well, if she couldn't handle that, then she could handle anything.
And it is amazing when we talk in politics here that, I mean, take the state of Illinois, for instance. I mean, probably majority red, but, and we take this one section of Chicago and it flips the whole state. It's incredible the power that these cities, if it's Houston or Dallas or whatever it might be, Austin, that can maybe flip a state one day. And I hope not. I hope it not, because we all love Texas.
Illinois scares the crap out of me because it's like we've turned over the city of Chicago to gangs. I mean, when politicians are in the election cycle and they're campaigning and they're talking to gangs, and that's, they're trying to get the favor of gangs. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about who's running that city.
Right.
Exactly.
And the funny part, I was going to mention that earlier, that these people that push for this soft on crime agenda, they don't have to live in those areas. Mm-hmm. And to me, if you're a citizen living next to that shit or in the middle of it and it's affecting your life, I don't see how any of them can't step back a second and say, wait a second, these politicians that are up here, pandering to me, they don't live in this neighborhood that I have to walk through every day. But yet they're trying to implement these laws that are destroying a neighborhood. I just don't see how people don't see that. Full-grown adults can't come to that conclusion. It blows my mind.
I saw something recently talking about this very situation. Why doesn't the public see it like in California? And, the press, I saw several articles talking about how the press, they have to report what the politicians give them or they will not even be invited to the next thing. And so they have a real good control over the press there. And I just, look at the rest of our country and we go, we don't know what union control of a state is until you go to California when you got the unions with as much power as they have. And I look at Minnesota with all the fraud that we've uncovered, and I'm like, whatever it is in Minnesota, I promise you, it's 10 to 100 times more in California. And I'm about to decide that all of these programs in these blue states that are supposedly helping people, they're just paying, it's just fraud and it's graft and it's just really scary. And we need to, thank God that we have a president trying to do that. George W. Bush II. George Bush II, can you imagine? He was a good man, but when he couldn't get this stuff done, and Reagan, he tried some of the things Trump's done, and he couldn't get through the bureaucracy. Trump, I just think that we're going to be watching movies about Trump for the rest of our lives about how smart he was and how he outsmarted people and what a great politician he turned out to be when he was not a politician and he became president. And I think, look at this cashless executive order encouraging the getting rid of cashless bail. It only affects urban areas that are almost all Democrat. What dog does he have to fight in that? That's none of his supporters. He looked at that and said, this is in the best interest of our country.
Well, it makes sense. That's all there is to it. It makes
a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I was always wondering that, how is Trump going to be spoke about, in a decade, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? I always wonder if he's going to get the credit that I think he deserves. Is he perfect? By no means, but nobody
Absolutely
is.
Not. Right.
But
look at Reagan. Reagan was despised, not as much as Trump. But he was despised. He was despised the whole time he was in office. And then when he left office, he was still despised. They talked about him when he left office, because I think, probably within 4 or 5 years after he left office, he gave a major speech, and then somewhere in the middle he started repeating, and so he kind of had a glitch and he repeated half his speech. Well, and so they started reporting that that's the way he was in office, which then it was his death when that required a reassessment of him. And now he's considered one of our best presidents, if not the best, one of the best on the Republican side. I think that same thing will happen with Trump. I don't know if it'll happen during his lifetime because we have this TDS syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome, which is so awful. I mean, I was on a podcast one time. I'd been on there multiple times, and we started talking about Trump, and I was like, oh my God, you've got TDS. There is you can't say one thing nice about the president because you have TDS.
That's the worst part, is not being able to acknowledge one positive thing that he's done.
Right.
Nothing. Even if it helped you, when you have TDS, you cannot admit it, and that it shows you how good of a job the left did with painting that man as evil, Nazi, bigot, whatever word you want to throw out there, whatever term. They did such a good job at that it pretty much brainwashed half the country to believe that this man is nothing but despicable. And it's just crazy to watch the amount of people that fell for that. And I don't know, have you in your lifetime seen anybody be attacked as much as Trump? I mean,
well, I would say every Republican candidate and every Republican president has been attacked. They've all, up until now, they've all been called Hitler. I mean, every Republican candidate or Republican president was Hitler. And even Romney, which I was like, how can anybody call Romney?
Absolutely.
But now we're entering a new phase. So now every Republican candidate after Trump will be worse than Trump.
That's going to be what they're going to run with from here on in the future.
I didn't even look at that point, but yes. Yeah, I didn't even look at that point, but yeah, I agree.
They're already hitting the vice president right now. He's worse than Trump.
Worse than Trump.
Doing that in preparation for the next national election. They're hitting him now. I mean, and what you said about they've really set up their party about hating Trump just because he got the Trump name. It's this identity politics. I mean, they have really set up their party. You can't support Ken because he's white, because he's an attorney, and so he has nothing in common with you. So you can't support him because of who he is. You can't support anything about him, and so because of his identity, you have to reject him. I've been on debates where they're like, they can't respond to my arguments, and so they just say, "Well, Ken's a racist," and I'm like, okay, so we're through.
That's the go-to.
You can't respond to my argument, so you're just going to try to negate me as an arguer, and that's where we are. I think we're getting past that. I mean, Trump got twice as many black votes in his second election than he did in the first. I mean, he still didn't get the majority, but getting twice the number he got in the first election was enough to make it a huge election result, and to just take the wind out of the left.
Well, and if you see the comment I put up there, now we get accused a lot of being just hardcore MAGA, can never call Trump out on anything that was done wrong. And we've said it now multiple times on this show how disappointing it was at the way that the Epstein files was handled from day one with this administration. Now, people have different opinions on that. Myself, I think it was a huge folly. I think they promised us a bunch of knowledge when it came to what was going on with this Epstein stuff, and basically gave us nothing but a huge file dump for us to sift through.
But let me give you a different perspective on that, because I think, like this whole war with Iran, I mean, if you're only thinking of Iran and you're not thinking China, then you need to broaden your explanation. But let me give you a little bit different explanation on the Epstein files, because, and this one will trigger people that have TDS. But imagine for the last year, Trump has been going around the world, and he's been negotiating with people, and he's been saying, I hear there's some stuff in the Epstein files about you, and I've been really trying my best to keep that stuff from coming out. And I mean, just the allegation could be enough to hurt you. But the Democrats could put me in a position at some point that I don't have a choice. I have to release it. But, so I think he's been going around the world negotiating with people. And I think that's been part of the negotiation. And what we have not seen in our country on the national news, like other countries have, is the devastation that the release of those files has done overseas. Not only to the former Prince Andrew. I mean, there's other royal family members in other countries that may not be able to get the crown as a result of that. Right. I mean, people from groups that have had to resign in so many different organizations. And so I think Trump it looks like he just completely fumbled it, but I think he's been using it across the world.
Well, here's what I didn't like. Check out this snippet. This is one of my favorite ones.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims.
So that's what I didn't like about this Department of Justice, the way that it just seems like they were blatantly lying and contradicting themselves. And look, I'm a Trump supporter, so I'm not on there trying to, destroy, him or his legacy or whatever. But I just think it was handled totally wrong. I watched that episode with Kash Patel on Rogan's podcast, and you can tell he was lying from the first minute Rogan brought up them Epstein files. It was blatant lying.
I don't have an explanation for Bondi, what she did. I mean, because she absolutely said one thing and then did the opposite. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to do it for a couple of reasons. Because I think I think the establishment has been working hard to discredit, and so I wouldn't be surprised if the people that are that are always in the administration were telling her one thing and that turned out not to be true.
Sure.
So I wouldn't. I get it. I wouldn't. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt for that. I'm going to give her a second. And also for me, the Epstein files. I mean, if there was anything there, the Democrats would have released it when they're in power. The fact that they haven't, that just meant it's a political issue. And since it's just their newest thing for Trump's second term to attack him with, just like they attacked him on the first term for Russian collusion, I just completely negate it. I don't think it's really a true issue. It's just they're throwing mud against the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah.
And so far it hasn't. Even with the fumbles that we've had, it still hasn't stuck. And thank God. I mean, but I want to tell you this, Trump studied for 4 years while he was out of office on preparation for a second term. He came in, he hit the ground running. And I mean, he's done stuff that has been masterful. Masterful.
No doubt. There's no doubt that was just my biggest knock on him. But I see, to your point, like you said, if there were anything incriminating against Trump, then that would have made the light of day in a heartbeat. When they went as far as, in my opinion, to try to kill the man. So you don't think they would have released some type of evidence if they had it? So that is a good argument that I kind of stand behind too. I just see how the other side can look at it and say, well, wait a second, why all the lying, or at least the misleading when it comes to this Epstein stuff? Because that's what it looked like. It didn't look good. No. So it gave the other side an argument to run on that, well, he must be hiding something. And I didn't have an explanation for it. I mean, you kind of summed it up a little bit better than I could. But, I looked at it like it was a major flaw in this administration, because even when going back to when Pam Bondi and all them, they gave all those social media influencers these binders and made this big spectacle out of it, and there was nothing in it that wasn't already released. So just those games like that, I'm thinking, well, what do you think the other side is going to believe when you're pulling stunts like that? It did no justice for this administration, the way that they handled it.
But look at our Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, whatever you want to call him. When Pete Hegseth came in, the establishment hated him. They did not want him to be there. And
absolutely,
he went through 6 months where he was cleaning the house, searching for leakers. And when they found one, they got rid of them. And if there was any question, I mean, he even got some of his assistants got, let go or fired, or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, he's really done a great job. I mean, one of the things from the Iran war has been, there's been no leaks, not from the Department of War.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And I would say they threw everything at him to try to get him. I mean, the whole thing about this app they were using and this made up thing about,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That was just a Hail Mary. I mean, I was thinking at the time, that's a sign of desperation. They were trying to run him off because they didn't like what he was doing. And he's been powerfully successful, just like Trump has. I mean, the amount of work that Trump's done in a year is more work than Biden did in 4 years.
4 years, exactly.
Did you hear what they're accusing Hegseth of with the money spending at the DOD?
No.
I was just reading about that earlier, that they needed to spend the money to keep their current funding moving forward. So he signed off on, I think it was $6.9 million for lobster tail, $2 million for Alaskan king crab, $15 million for ribeye steaks, and it just goes on and on and on.
That really compares really well to when Biden lost the election. They moved billions of dollars out of the government to special interest groups that clawed back. But it's just it's so ridiculous.
No, and I like Hegseth. I just think that the media can take something like that and run with it, because you're not going to get the entire story on that, and you're not going to get the comparisons to other. Right, and it's not like they're going to pull up Biden or Obama's administration and compare those kind of numbers. All they're going to do is run with Trump's Defense Department spent billions on food. That's what they're going to run with.
This is a great example, and we see this all across the political spectrum, whether it's, these activists arguing for bail reform, immigration policy, because those are so closely tied, because these illegal aliens are committing a lot of crime, and they're convicted. They have convictions from their home jurisdiction, and those are the people that we're focusing on getting out. And then you look at these types of things, and you can see the similarities, where if you are doing something and doing it well, you'll get attacked. You'll get attacked personally. They'll lie about you. It's not going to be. They're not going to talk to you, or they're not going to debate you on the policy, because we have the winning argument on the policy. So they're going to attack you personally because they want to run you off.
That's always been a part of the Democrats' strategy. Is, like you said, it's always just attack. It's never let me tell you what I can do for you as the American people to make your lives better. It's let me tell you how bad the other side is. And I think that's how they started that TDS, is because they're so good at that. That's what they do. That's their game plan. They've got a lot of practice in it, and it's all they have to run on is how terrible the other side is. And it's amazing, again, that full-grown, adults with functioning minds can fall for that over and over and over. And it's like, no, tell me what you're going to do for me in this country to make it a better place. Don't tell me how bad the other guy is. I will figure that out on my own. It's crazy.
What's the solution? Right.
It's mind-blowing.
We've had that on these these activist groups. They've learned how to flood Google with pseudo studies saying, these reforms will work. They'll reduce crime. They'll make us safer. And it's all just cooking the books, pseudoscience. But the problem is AI is not true artificial intelligence. AI is a news aggregator.
Sure.
So when you ask AI, especially Google, a question about bail reform, it pulls up all this crap from these pseudo studies that have been flooded into Google. And if you ask them a specific thing, like, is defunding the police a good policy? Oh, it'll tell you all the benefits and all the from these pseudo studies. But there's science from our colleges that has shown you defund the police, crime goes up. But if you ask artificial intelligence, they'll say there's a lot of benefits to it. And the activists will say we'll be safer when we do that. And it's a lie. Every bit of it's a lie.
Yeah, and look, I just did it as we were talking. I Googled that on Google's AI, and it started giving me the arguments in favor of it instantly.
Yeah.
Reinvesting in communities. Advocates propose shifting funds to education, housing, and healthcare to prevent crime before it happens. And, specialized response is another one. That's that whole using social workers.
Yeah.
So you're right. If you ask AI anything, all it's doing is pulling from this left-leaning internet that
and they do put the thumb on the scale, so they'll never pull up the Yolo County study. So they push it to the left with their thumb. Grok is a little bit better. So Grok will be more middle of the road, but Google will not pull up anything that's from our side, which I say is the truth, because we've been doing this for 200 years.
Yeah. Ryan, I see you in the comments, buddy. We're going to get to that. Actually, I was, once we were done with Ken, I was going to get to that Iranian stuff because, for one, what you're pointing out about these girls in this school, that's being reported by Iran. You could take that for what you want. But it's being reported by the people that we're at war with.
So in a war, are we not allowed to make mistakes? And I'm not saying that it's a mistake because we don't know what happened. We've got some reports that it was a projectile from Iran that came back and hit them, but we've got Iran saying it was. I don't know what's going to come out today, but they've been saying that from the very beginning, and our press has been reporting that. Why don't we why don't we find out the facts before we jump to the conclusions? But in a war, are we not allowed to have mistakes made? Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, it was a mistake. Is that a war crime? Is it a war crime when we do something intentionally, like we murder millions of Jews by the German government, and we do it intentionally? Isn't that a true war crime? I don't know if a mistake is a war crime.
Well, and I know their argument is that we shouldn't be over there anyway.
Well, but that's their argument. That's their argument. Period.
Right.
The fact that this happened doesn't change that that's their argument. It just changes the emotional impact of their argument.
Yeah.
But again, on that one, I would even say, if you think that that's only about Iran, then I don't think you're looking at all the different layers. I think that has just as much to do about China as Venezuela did.
Sure.
Because
absolutely.
If you had gone to
100%.
During Biden's administration, if you'd have gone to Washington, D.C. and talked to politicians, they would have said, in 5 years, we're going to be in a military standoff with China over Taiwan. And I would say Trump, the actions that he's taken in the last, with Venezuela and now Iran, and the shadow fleet, which has cut off oil to China or impacted it greatly, that's having a bigger impact on their willingness or their ability to take on Taiwan, whether they know it or not. And I just think that Trump is, as time goes by, if he's successful, and I'm very hopeful that he will be, he's going to go down as crazy smart if this is what he's doing, and I think it is.
Well, and I know a lot of people give him hell because they claim he ran on no more wars, and I try to tell him that's not exactly what he was. No more forever wars is what he was saying.
Right.
Where we're sitting over there for decades, rebuilding this place or doing whatever. And we all know it's a big money grab when they're over there for decades. They go in there, they destroy something, and then these people like Halliburton get contracts to rebuild. So Trump, that's more of what he promised. He didn't say there was never going to be a conflict. He's saying we won't sit over there for a decade.
But he gave the Iranian politicians every opportunity. How many times?
Of course he did.
And he's told, and every time he's done something, he said, "Here's your deadline." Really, he has, and they've rejected it every time. And so when you say that no more wars, are we giving our enemies the ability to veto? Well, we're not going to negotiate with you because you have said no more wars.
And that was
Trump. Trump's not. That's not Trump. Trump's going to.
No, it's not. It's not. And that was my argument a couple episodes back was, what did you want him to do when he told them to basically behave, stop doing what you're doing? And when they don't listen, they don't negotiate, there's just basically a standoff. Well, Trump's not the one to have a standoff with. And I don't know what else they expected this man to do besides go in there and show these people who's in charge.
Well, but I think also these same people, and with respect, I wonder if these same people that are arguing that would also defend the Obama agreement with Iran, because there's some articles that I've read that I really agree with, and that every president we've had before Trump, their whole goal with Iran was to kick the can down the road past their administration.
100%.
Can't pass
totally agree with you.
And so whatever happens isn't my fault. And I really do believe that's what Obama's whole thing was. And I just don't, I don't know where these people, where Obama grew up, but it would have never been proper for me to just say, hey, we're going to send them plane loads of cash. And I know I have a 90% confidence of what they're going to do with all this money. And I think they did that with all that money. And I wouldn't be, and still be able to sleep at night. And I know that Obama's going to open his presidential library in a few weeks or a month or so. And I'm sure he's going to have a whole section celebrating that agreement that he negotiated. But I don't think history is going to be very nice with that. We'll see.
Yeah, and I see CSR in the comments. He's not very happy about what Trump is doing over there in Iran. Send your kids over there. I get the gripe people have with being involved in any type of conflict and war. It's not pretty. Sometimes it's necessary.
I don't want to do anything but honor the people that have been hurt or killed. But if I'm going to listen to somebody who is giving advice based upon the people who've been killed, I'm going to listen to their families. And their families have reportedly told Trump, finish the job for our children. Finish the job.
Good point.
I think they should have more say than me or, someone else. If you want to be mad because 7 people have died, you have that right. Absolutely. But these, I'm going to honor them. I'm going to honor them for doing this. And, for the people that are saying, this is such a terrible situation, they would be like, during Biden, we couldn't get people to sign up for the war for our military. And now we don't have enough room for all the people who want in it. We're doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I always try to tell people, I don't claim to be some behind the scenes, informant where I can go and hear these discussions going on in the White House or wherever else is taking place. All I can go by is what they're telling us, which is they had intel that Iran was doing what they should not have been doing, and that they were about to attack American bases over there. So when you get that intel as the president of the United States, what else are you to do? And I'm just taking that as truth. If it's all a big lie, then hopefully that'll come out and then we can talk about that. But if you're taking that for what it is, that he's receiving this intel, well, there you go. Now, look, have presidents been given false intel before? Sure they have. Sure.
Well, I'll probably discount it when they say stuff like that. But the president is the president. He's the commander in chief. I'm laughing because I'm looking at these comments. Ken is far gone. And I'm like, you know what? I probably am too far gone for this person who made that comment, because I believe in Trump. I think he's very intelligent. I think he's very smart. I think he knows what he's doing. He's negotiating on 4D chess. And I think you're not even negotiating on 2D chess. I apologize for that comment in advance. But I think one of the two of us is looking after what's in the best interest of the long-term interest of our country. And if you can't even admit that, then maybe you got a little TDS.
Well, there's a lot of people that believe we only got involved in this because of Israel. And you can't convince them otherwise. So it's just, it's a losing argument. No side is going to give in to the other side. See, you can see it in the comments right there, bootlicking for Israel. So a lot of people believe that. That's the only reason Trump even considered doing this.
The people that say that we're a member of NATO, but if NATO country got attacked, well, then we're just bootlicking for a NATO ally. Israel is one of our allies. Are we not going to defend our ally? And if we can't defend Israel, is it because they're Jewish? Is it because we can't defend a Jewish country? They're the only democracy in the Middle East. Why wouldn't we stand up with the only democracy in the Middle East unless you disagree with them?
Yeah, and look, man, a lot of it's just strategic, it's not, and I'm not saying no war was ever fought over, monetary reasons as far as oil, this, that, and other, but I just believe I believe this one had a lot more, going on besides just some push for oil over there, because that's where a lot of them like to go also. They come up with every excuse in the book to just paint this as a mistake by Donald Trump, or not even a mistake, but just ill intentions, and lying to the American people about why we're over there. And as I say, I don't claim to know the truth. I'm just going by what this administration is telling us and going by the history that we know with Iran. I mean, these aren't good people. They don't like us. And if our adversaries are over there, then hey, man, we got to do what we have to do. I mean, it sucks if lives are lost. I get it. I'm not, champion that at all. But like I said, war is not pretty, man. It's not. Stuff happens. I wish we could never get caught up in situations like that. But it's just not possible. Sometimes you have to show the world that you are the powerhouse, because if not, they will take advantage of you. And it's, what I do like about what Trump does is just like he did in Venezuela, where he got in and he got out. And that is his plan here. I'm old
enough. I'm so old. I'm like 65 years old. I just turned 65. So I remember, in 79 when Khomeini came to power, the first Khomeini. And I mean, how westernized Iran was before.
Absolutely.
It was a shining light. I mean, the percentage of the population that was educated and could read, women, I mean, compare that to the way they are now. I mean, they have, it's not even close, but the Iranian people has reached out to our country multiple times, one during Biden, saying we want to take our country.
Absolutely.
We're asking you to help us. And I understand all these comments about, forever wars. I don't think this is a forever war. Trump knows what a forever war is. He's going to break it, but he's not going to go in there and fix it. During Bush -- 2, his advisor said, if you break it, then you own it. I don't think Trump believes that. He believes if he breaks it, then, you should, we'll help you fix it, but you're going to fix it. And if you don't fix it the way we want it fixed, then we'll break it again. Iran, are these people that in the comments think Iran should have the right to have a nuclear weapon and send that to our country? I think some of them would say yes.
That's exactly what I was going to ask some of the people in the chats is, do you believe it's okay for a place like Iran to have nuclear weapons? Do you not believe that's a threat? I want to know. So I'm looking at y'all in the chats. Give us that answer. Or do you just don't? Some of them don't believe that Iran was even working on that. So it's hard to get through to people like that just don't even want to see any of it because Trump's behind it. And it's just, sometimes you got to look outside of that bubble. And if we're going to sit there and assume that Iran was working towards having these nuclear weapons, well, believe me, you don't want that. It's not good at all.
It would start a race for nuclear weapons in the whole region, because Saudi Arabia cannot not have. Look at what's happened. If you believe that since these attacks started, they've started shooting missiles at all of their surrounding countries. Do you think they would do that with a nuclear weapon? What they're doing right now is a sign of desperation. It's a sign that they are losing, and they're losing very badly. And so they're shooting off missiles at everybody surrounding them, hoping just to create so much chaos that we'll stop. That's what I think is going on. But, people can disagree with me. I'm fine. I'm a big boy.
Absolutely.
People disagree with me all the time. But if we come back and we talk about criminal justice reform and we talk about bail reform, which I've written articles across the country on what good bail reform looks like and what bad failure bail reform is. And a lot of these experiments in our urban areas are just complete and utter failures. And our friends on the other side won't even admit it. And they'll just say, oh, yeah, we just need more time. And so when you start seeing it there and you start seeing it here, I can see why people in the comments are, we can't even agree on the facts. I remember a time in our history where the facts were the facts, that we could disagree on what policy that should have. We would say, well, should we really attack Iran? But they are developing a nuclear weapon. But the trust in government is so gone. the party not in office won't trust anything said.
Sure.
I don't know who said this, but somebody said one time that a democracy relies upon the consent of the defeated party to govern. And we're in a period of time where the activists will not allow their party to consent to be governed when they don't win. And it makes it very difficult. And then you get comments like we're seeing where, if you say anything that contradicts what they're saying, then you're a piece of crap. You're crazy, because that's the way they've been taught. If you disagree with them, then you're the one that's wrong. You're just an idiot. And so it's hard to have a debate with people like that, where if you're open-minded enough to consider the opposite.
Well, that comment's directed towards you there, Ken. He wants to know why. Can you disagree with anything Trump has done?
That's a good question. Do I disagree with anything?
He's daring you to name something that you don't, agree with.
I disagree with his. I don't think Trump is a politician. I mean, he's a second-term president, but he's not a politician. And so Trump's mouth gets him in trouble. He's done a lot better in the second term, but his mouth got him into so much trouble in the first term. And I disagree with a lot of what he said because I just thought he wasn't a politician. On some of the policy issues, in his first term, he did the, what was it called? The First Step Act, where released some people from federal prison. And the reason why I disagree with it, but I think now he wouldn't do it again. But the reason why I disagree with it is I'm fine with releasing people early when they show that they are changing course and they're going to be productive citizens. The problem with that is the federal government can't do a case-by-case analysis to see who's converted. They can only do across the board. And so when they did the First Step Act, they did across the board. And I think that was a mistake. And I think it was bad policy. There's been a lot of people that have been rearrested since then. And so, yeah, I disagree with the First Step Act. So, yes, challenge accepted. And I did.
Well, there you go. See, that's the difference between what I like to say our side, which is Trump supporters, and the other side. Is it's hard to find anybody that will criticize anything that side is doing. And I don't just mean what that president, if he happens to be Democrat, is doing. I just mean that side in general. They know they stick to the script. And you could see, including the media, it's like they all get this playbook and they all run with it, and there's no deviating from it. And you see a lot of that in the supporters also. Because
challenge that same person. Say something nice about Trump. I don't think you can.
Oh, that's a good one. Where's he at? Who was that? Was that?
Yeah, you say something nice about Trump. Because I'm going to tell you, when Trump was first, when he ran for president the first time, I was in the primary, Republican primary. I was a reluctant Trump supporter. In the election, I voted for Trump. When he ran for re-election, I thought he was being mistreated, and so I strongly supported. When he ran the third time, I would have climbed or crawled through broken glass to vote for Trump because I thought that's how poorly he was treated. Wanted to put him in jail for things I didn't believe in. And so I would have crawled over a broken glass to vote for him the third time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just watching how much they tried to destroy him made me want him in there even more, because it was kind of like, what do they not want him in there for? This wasn't just a typical political opponent. This was somebody, like I said, they tried to take out. It was by any means necessary. We don't want him in the White House, and that should have made everybody want him in the White House.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the litigation to try to put him in jail, try to bankrupt him, and then the assassination attempts.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's a lot of people. Yeah, and there's a lot of people on that side that don't even believe that, he was shot at. It's just crazy when you try to reason. Like you said, it's just total. It's facts. We see it. We all know it, but they will not say it happened. Now, I want to go back to the guy in the chat. It was this gentleman here.
Yeah.
Say something. Okay, so this is what he had to say about positive, I guess, the move towards securing the borders good. Okay. All right. So at least he did. He had something good to say about what Trump is doing.
And he also said the Democrats trying to lock him up was wrong.
Okay. Well, there you go. See, and there's nothing wrong with having those types of conversations. I mean, we can all, choose to support a side that we want to choose, but let's at least call things what they are sometimes. I mean,
I would just say thank you, commenter, for taking the challenge.
Yeah, honestly, because we need more of that instead of just being at each other's throats, because we see it a lot. And that's one thing I forgot to mention to you. So I apologize. The comments get out of control sometimes, so don't take any of it.
That they do.
I didn't even look at the comments until you made it, and then I was like, "Oh, look!" I pulled it out, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
I got my big boy pants on.
Yeah, they come at us hard on here, but I enjoy it myself. I just wish we could have more of the discourse back and forth to where it's like, okay, I don't agree with Trump, or I don't agree with Kamala Harris, but at the same time, I think what they said about this makes sense, blah blah blah. But you don't see that nowadays because it's just the politics is so polarizing, and like these politicians have done a good job at dividing us, and I think that's done on purpose. They don't want us coming together. It doesn't benefit them at all.
Well, and I mean, when Biden was elected president, I did not support him. I did not agree with him. I still called him President Biden, because out of respect. When people, are in the comments, I don't think there's people in the comments that can't do that same thing, show respect for the office because they have TDS. And
right.
I would just say, if you are so caught up in something and you are so angry all the time, then maybe you need to get off social media and go for a walk.
That's a big one. That's a big one, man. Now, I've seen where'd he go? He's brought this up a couple times. That video that the Trump administration posted with the monkeys in it. So they took that and ran with it.
Yeah. What's they got to do with it? Okay, so if you start with the premise that Trump is not a politician, he saw a stupid video and he liked it, and he reposted it. And then, okay, the politicians said, "You idiot, what have you done?" He deleted it. I mean, okay, and you're still frying him over that. What else could he have done if he's not a politician? So, I mean, to me, this is just the hired people that receive emails say, "Here's your talking points for today. Don't forget the monkey video," because it's that toxic language to shut off debate, and nobody can make a mistake. I disregard.
And that's been a big argument from any person of color that's ever had a real interaction with Donald Trump before he was president, is that he is the furthest from a racist.
Yeah, that's a good point. The same person that's talking about the monkey video, have you seen the video with Trump and Jesse Jackson? Over the years, that there was a montage of that, and they were saying they should have showed that at his funeral instead of had the people that attacked Trump, and even Jesse Jackson's son the next day attacked the politicians for turning his father's funeral into a political event to attack Trump.
I saw that, yeah.
But Trump, okay, the monkey video, the response to that is, did you see the Jesse Jackson Trump montage? They were very good friends. In fact, Trump financed one of his presidential campaigns.
Yeah.
But Trump doesn't like to talk about the good things he does, and because he just doesn't like it, and so we can't use it to respond because Trump doesn't want to admit it.
No, but it's funny because we've all seen the videos of him, rubbing elbows with Oprah, and it all of that was going on before he decided to run for president, and he was the furthest thing from a racist, and it's amazing how they were able to turn that around, and people believe it. People that saw how Trump was before now believe he's a racist because this side says it enough. It's just so strange to watch the minds of people being scrambled by these politicians, and it works.
Those are tried and tested methods, political attack things that have worked historically.
Sure.
They have worked remember the picture of the politician in a boat with a girl sitting on his lap, and he was married and it wasn't her, and so that ended his campaign. Yeah. Trump is the first president where that kind of stuff, or candidate where that kind of stuff didn't work. And so I think when they start raising that kind of stuff, it's the frustration. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not comfortable with that because that makes it harder for real stuff to come out in the future and real scandals to get any traction. So we're devaluing the ability to attack any president. So I don't like that, but I do believe in Trump's case, and people in the comments can disagree with me. That's fine.
And they will.
And they certainly will. That's pretty clear. But I think that it was orchestrated. I think a lot of these things were personal attacks on Trump that were just to try to end his campaign. I mean, Trump is just so creative. When he came out and they had and used that in one of his debates with Hillary, brought in some of Clinton's President Clinton's ex-girls and brought them into the debate, had them sit there and right in the room and made a comment about it. I mean, that was just genius. And people that voted for him, I mean, that's what they voted for him, because they're tired of their candidates getting beat up and them not just standing up to it. And so Trump's fought back. And so there was such a thirst for someone to fight back and stand up for those things. And so I think that's why he was elected the first time, although I think he would have never been elected if Hillary hadn't been the candidate for the Democrats. And I think that's the reason why he got reelected. I mean, he's a known quantity. He fights for what, I mean, you can disagree with him. You can think he's crazy. You can think he's got mental issues, but he fights. And there's a lot of people, that's why we support him. He fights. We think he fights for what's best in the country. Y'all don't, but we do.
And, you know, I heard something the other day that it was such a good point to just kind of show you how the man isn't bought by anyone, because Elon donated more money than anybody to his campaign, and he still didn't pass that EV bill or whatever that Elon was wanting passed. So that should tell everybody they need, what they need to know about Trump.
One of the fears about Trump is he's no one can control him, and so the activists couldn't have him as president because he could not be controlled.
Exactly, and that was the fear. That's exactly what I meant earlier when I said they should have told everybody all they needed to know when they fought so hard, because they knew, just like you said, he was not going to be controlled. He's rogue, and it's good. It's nice to see. So anyway, all right. Well, you got time, Ken? Or what you doing?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm just gonna have a 4-hour drive when we get through.
Do you really?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and go, Ken. I don't want to keep you. I don't want to keep you. We got way off of the subject.
It's been good talk, though. It really has.
It has. Hell, we only got about 10 more minutes, so let's just keep it running for a little bit, But now, going to one of the subjects I wanted to get on, any concern out of you about, these sleeper cells we've been hearing about that are possibly over here, the Iranian, especially with the open border that the last administration had?
Absolutely. I think we're all going to be on. Yes, I think we should all be vigilant about that. I think that
full alert
with the borders that have been open for so long. I mean, I don't know how we don't have sleeper cells in, and I think we've already had a couple of examples. I mean, the shooting where the guy's wearing a T-shirt that's Iran or whatever. I think
property of Allah.
Yeah, property of Allah, and then the two guys in New York that have IEDs and they wanted to make it bigger than the Boston Marathon. I mean, those could be sleeper cells easily. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't classify them that. But I don't know. I mean, the thing that's really upset me about that is for CNN to be arguing that they were targeting Mamdani. I mean, they've already clarified. One of the commentators.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they were targeting Mamdani. No, they weren't. They were targeting the anti-Muslim protests. And the problem that I have is, the ACLU used to defend anybody that wanted to peacefully protest. We're now at a point where Mamdani would not believe that anti-Muslim protesters have a right to even protest. But for CNN to be misleading and saying that they were targeting Mamdani when that's absolutely 180 degrees opposite of what they were.
Oh, it's disgusting, man.
It's disgusting. And they've come out and clarified it, but I think even since then they've had another commentator repeat it. So it just cheapens them and cheapens the whole debate. And it goes back to, even on the criminal justice reform, bail reform, immigration reform, they have to lie. They can't have an honest debate because they won't win, so they have to lie.
No, that's true. Well, I know with all this Iran and these sleeper cells, I know the U.S. had intercepted these mysterious encrypted communication from Iran. It was what they explain as likely an operational trigger for these sleeper assets abroad, including over here in the U.S. And it's kind of like I guess a go signal. And U.S. intelligence, they picked it up. They saw these messages that it looked like it came straight from Iran right after that big strike and Khamenei's death. Now, they say they weren't normal text or emails. They were kind of hidden signals meant for hidden people who already have the key to decode them. So to me, it just says there's something there. I mean, there'd be no other reason to have these secret codes coming from Iran if there wasn't something that we really needed to be aware of, at least. Now, I'm not saying run around and hide in your bunkers yet, but just be aware.
Well, I just noticed the comment one of the guys said, well, all four of us can overlook that Trump is a rapist. And I would just point out that's actually slander, defamation per se. That's the same argument that ABC made, George Stephanopoulos, and they ended up paying tens of millions of dollars to Trump himself. The only reason why that commentator will not be sued is because he's nothing. He has no influence, and he probably doesn't even have any resources. And he's probably a paid hack to say that, because that's such a it's such a slanderous statement, because it's not true. Trump has never been convicted of rape. It's a lie, but that's one of the often said things. And so ABC decided to say it, and they ended up having to settle with Trump and pay tens of millions of dollars for doing it. The only reason why that commentator will not be sued for slander, libel per se, which per se means you're accusing them of a crime that didn't happen, is
But and I'm not giving this person any defense, but I really do believe they believe that, because that's what they've been told.
Yep.
It's some people still to this day believe the Russian collusion hoax that's been proven to be a hoax, because they don't want to hear anything else. So I truly believe these people believe everything that's being said about.
The point that I like to make about them is, okay, so we have a strong disagreement. But can you imagine? Just imagine for a moment that what we're saying is true, that the other campaign in a national presidential campaign paid for a paper that was false so that it could be the foundation of this, and that it was used to spy on a presidential campaign. And then a president, when he was in office, and they used that kind of crap to run off his national security, his first choice for national security director or something, whatever. And if you just imagine that actually was true, what does it say about one side of our political class, where we live in a world where we're willing for that to happen? And then if we want to say, well, let's assume for a moment that all that did happen. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, Russia, what influence did they have from Trump? I mean, after they supposedly got him elected.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't done them any favors.
No, he's put he's put more pressure on them. The Shadow Fleet stuff he's done is put pressure on him. He's trying to end the Ukraine war by affecting the Shadow Fleet. By also, you could say what he's doing in Venezuela and Iran is going to have a big impact on Russia-Ukraine war. But those are the facts. Are the facts, and the problem is we're now in a time period where we can't agree even to the facts. So
you're right.
Russian collusion,
you summed it up.
One candidate couldn't accept or consent to be governed by the losing party, to be governed by the winning party, so they had to do something that I would consider to be completely outrageous.
And how silly did all that get? He had Russian hookers peeing on his chest and stuff. It was so just outlandish.
It didn't pass the smell test, and smell of pee, but it didn't pass the smell test. It just was stupid. When they made that argument, it was stupid.
Yes. Oh, God. Well, I like Paul's comment. God saved Trump so he could save America, and whether you're real religious or not, just to watch that night or that day when he was giving that speech and just for whatever reason turned his head and that bullet nicked that ear instead of putting his brains on the guest behind it, I don't know how else to explain it besides something intervened, and it had to be for a reason.
He turned his head to hide the ketchup packet, right?
Is that what it was?
That's what I've heard.
That's what they say, yeah.
Heaven forbid, what would have happened to our country if he'd have been killed? Because at that particular time, it was just a week or two before the Republican convention. I mean,
sure.
It would have been unprecedented on who they would have nominated to take his place. We would have had chaos. We would have had mass protests. We would have had probably a little civil war. And in that situation, probably would have been more likely that Biden would have been reelected because he would have been continuity,
right.
The quality or the thing that we know. And that would have been really, really bad for our country. I mean, I think that both sides should agree that closing the border was not something that we needed a new bill for. It turned out all we needed was a new president. And so Biden always had the ability to close the border and chose not to. And that was not a good thing. And if you agree that he could have and didn't, then why did he keep it open? And if you can acknowledge that one reason why they would keep it open would be to flood the blue states to give them higher representation in the House of Representatives, then that's putting party over country. And what other reason would they have done that? Just flooded the country, open borders, bring in criminals. And that's the one thing they can't even acknowledge, that any of this 20 million, 12 million, whatever people that came in through the borders, that any of them were criminals, that Venezuela emptied their prisons and sent them to the United States. They can't acknowledge that. Cannot.
Nope.
I think another thing that Trump opened up a lot of people's eyes, and even some of them that won't admit it, is just how corrupt of a system we have over here. And I think people needed to know that. And I think that's another reason he was, left around, for us to just the good that he could do and exposing this system that these politicians, these corrupt politicians are so ingrained. They got their claws so deep into it. And I think it really came to light when you watched how they went after Trump. So as I mentioned before, with him turning his head at the exact split second he needed to, I really believe there was a reason for that. And you could say it's God or whatever mysterious force. I just believe he was left here for a reason. And I think one of them is just to let, it opened a lot of people's eyes, like I said, and this country was going down a horrible, horrible path. And as you mentioned, if Biden, Harris, whoever would have continued, no telling where we'd be. It would be a freaking disaster. And it's amazing. People can't see that, man. It was going nowhere good without Trump. And I think a lot of people know that. They just won't admit it.
Well, when you look at the comments, you go, okay, so what were the big policies that were in the debate at the last election? The biggest one was immigration. And the second one was crime. So you look at the comments, and it's all about Trump as a rapist. Illegals can't vote, even though I think they just arrested somebody that was here illegally and voted in 4 national elections. So you can't say that illegals are not voting, because they are. And so
absolutely, they
are spending all their time on personal traits because they can't debate the policies. The policy of open borders. Well, I don't even think the majority of the Democrats support open borders. And look at the debate going on in Congress right now about voting. You got to be able to prove you're a citizen before you can vote. That's supported by large groups of both parties and the moderates. And we can't even talk about that. They want to talk about personal traits. They want to do attacks because attacks during elections work. And so they are now able to keep the election close because of their personal attacks. If you look at what happened during Trump's election in October, they were all saying, "Oh, crime is not going up because of bail reform. Crime is not going up from criminal justice reform." Just look at the FBI statistics. I wrote an article in October saying, "Here's all the reasons why the FBI statistics are not right. They're not accurate." And then 10 days later, they were suddenly updated, not because of my article, it's just timing, but suddenly crime was going up. From that moment on, they couldn't talk about crime anymore because they couldn't say crime was going down because now crime's going up. So they went and shifted immediately to say Trump is Hitler, Trump is a fascist. And they started yelling that at the top of their lungs because they shift to personal attacks because they could no longer talk about policy. That's what we're seeing right now. You can't talk the policies, Trump wins. So they have to do the personal attacks. And some of them are very personal. Because that's all they have to run on. That's all they have to say about Trump because they can't win on the policy.
100%.
Well, you brought up a second ago the Voting Act, the Save America Act that's trying to get passed, and it's just amazing to watch the pushback he's getting on that. Now, you got Chuck Schumer standing up either today or yesterday at the podium saying that this will allow ICE to kick tens of millions of people off voter rolls. So then I'm listening like, well, what is he saying? Is he openly admitting that voter rolls are plagued with illegals? Because why would you be concerned?
You're right. To kick off illegals off of voter. Well, why are they on voter rolls to begin with? I mean, that's almost an argument for and support of it. It says if we desperately need it, if we have a whole bunch of voter rolls that have illegals on it. I don't know. Those are talking points that have been tested in front of groups, and so it's just toxic language intended to cut off the debate.
It's just crazy that anybody would disagree with someone proving they're a citizen before they vote in a country they live in.
The most sacred thing to do in this country, dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As a citizen, yeah.
And I get why the politicians do it. I just mean the citizens that go along with that thought process. Like, why would you want anybody that's not a citizen of your country casting votes? I mean, I guess if it's in your favor, in your party's favor, I guess I can see it. But it's just amazing they can't admit that that's a bad idea.
Well, and I would just add a little levity. My parents had a car accident in 2018 and they died. And so they've been voting Democrat ever since.
Yeah. No, there you go. There you go.
And you know, to that, Shane, I think a lot of people in this country on both sides of our part, if it's the right or the left or Democrat, Republican, however you want to say it, but I believe there's a lot of people out there that believe in this voter ID. To me, it's the most precious thing that we have in this country, and you have to show an ID for anything you do in this country. If it's getting medication, if it's going here or going there, you have to show some form of ID. And I mean, why would it's all to light on us, dude, because you see it that the politicians don't want it because on the Democrat side, because that is their voter base and they want the illegals to vote, New
York just hired shovelers, people that were willing to shovel the snow. They had to show their ID to be able
Great point.
But
great point.
When I go see a politician to get into the building, I have to show my ID. But for some reason, we don't have to show our ID to get to vote in some of our urban areas in our state.
Well,
it's ludicrous.
Right.
Well, Ken, you're being accused of being hyperbolic. That nobody is against showing identity. How can they say that? One side is pushing for it. The whole damn side is pushing to not. I mean, in California, you can't even show your ID. I hear people talk about that all the time, that you can't ask somebody for their ID when you go in to vote, that it is illegal to ask them for an ID.
Didn't we have an undercover video in Georgia just recently, like in the last month, where a guy essentially that was in charge of all this admitted that all the allegations essentially were true? They cleared out the building, the Republicans left, the Democrats went back in, and he started unboxing, fake ballots or ballots that they counted that were, brought in mass. So all the allegations that were made, he admitted to. And so all the things it's not a problem. I mean, nobody has a problem showing an ID. Well, then why are certain people in Congress opposing the bill? If no one opposes it, well, I got, there's people in Congress that in the Senate, United States Senate, that are keeping it from getting 60 votes because they're opposing it. So it obviously is a problem. I would say when you add the illegal immigrants flooding the blue states so that on the next census they get higher numbers assigned to them for the House, and then you do this where you can't check their ID before they vote, and then you've got people out just ballot harvesting. That's the only way they're getting a close election. So you get rid of those, they can't win.
Yeah, and
that's
Ryan's
why they're desperate.
Well, I was gonna say Ryan's been in the comments, man. He really believes every point that we make can be debunked, and I just don't understand it, because it's especially when it comes to this voting issue. I mean, it's not a secret that one side could not care any less whether or not you show an ID. I mean, they say it. They blatantly say it. They think it's racist to ask for an ID. So debunk that if you want. I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, I appreciate you tuning in, Ryan, but I don't understand how you can debunk that when there's proof all over. So it's strange, man. Like just how far apart we are in this country. It kind of went back to one of the questions I asked you early on in this episode was, how can two groups look at the same thing and come up with two different conclusions? It blows my mind. Excuse me. It's crazy, man. And look, they think we're just as nuts as they are. So I don't know. Maybe we're all crazy, but oh man, I don't know. It's just
I remember when 9/11 happened, because we were a very divided country before 9/11, and then for a period of time we were all one country.
It was beautiful.
And we're now back to a divided country where we're stupid because we have one thought, and they're stupid because they have the opposite thought. And I would hope that it's more they think we're stupid because we're not entitled to an opinion that disagrees with them. And
sure.
I would say you can have your opinion, but surely we can agree on the facts. But we're at a period of time where you're not entitled to your opinion when you disagree with the activists.
Well, don't you think that was purposely done, though, as far as, like you said, we all came together for a while after 9/11, and then we're right back to that major divide. It's almost like it's a systematic, it's done purposely by the government or the politicians, is the way I see it.
I don't know. If you look back over the last 20 years, look at all the anti-government movies. I mean, look at, even popular anti-government movies like the Hunger Games, very anti-government, and you can't trust your government. So we have inundated our kids and our teenagers and our young adults with movies that say you cannot trust the government. And if you can't trust the government, you don't trust anybody. I mean, the Republicans don't trust the Democrats, the Democrats don't trust the Republicans. And, we've had periods in our history where, like all the comments about the war in Iran, the debate ends at the water's edge. When we get into a confrontation, it's our president. We're not having that kind of situation with this, with Iran and with this president, and we're not going to. Trump is going to be despised the rest of his life, and you know what? He's fine with that. He's self-confident. He doesn't care. He would like for everybody to acknowledge when he does something good. I'm kind of the same way. I don't think these people are going to ever agree. I don't think they can agree, because if you imagine in our urban cities, if they were to acknowledge that something that Trump was doing was to help our country become more safe and a better place, they couldn't win another election. So they can't. They're in a box. They can't admit that Trump is doing something good. And so when you realize that, you go, how much of this is just distribution of talking points from their party, telling them what to argue and get real violent and attack people that they disagree with. And you go, okay, I'm fine. I'm comfortable with that.
Well, it's a good point. Like you said, they can't admit it because it makes them look horrible, and they'll never win another election if they just keep saying, yeah, everything Trump did or most of what he did was good for the country. That's the last thing they're going to say. So anyway, with that, Ken, I thank you so much, brother. We're going to wrap it up because the comments are they're going to drive us all nuts. But it's been a blast, dude. And you have that link. It'll get you in here anytime you feel like coming on. We do it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the same time. And yeah, it's what we do, man. So again, I appreciate you taking your time to come sit down with us. It's been enlightening, man. I appreciate you.
Well, I thank you so much for having me. I will say I'm going to try to put out the ashes to my pants being on fire, according to the comments. But I didn't even bring a change of pants. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's the funnest part of this.
Enjoyable, and it was. I enjoyed the comments. I mean, some of them. There were some of them that were very attacking and very personal. And shame on you, but you know what?
Hey,
that's what happens.
Like you said, we're all grown ups. It is what it is. Send it. I like when they send it. It's fun. So anyway,
I think it speaks more about them than anything.
That's true. So I appreciate everybody checking out. If you hadn't hit that subscribe yet, please do it. We'll be back at it. What is today? Wednesday. We'll be back at it Friday night. So until then, everybody be good. Justin, tell them bye.
Bye.
Ken, tell them bye.
Bye, crazy people in the comments and everybody else.
Later, y'all.